Okay, welcome back. This is Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is all about the big picture on how you develop a website. So in this scenario, we're assuming that you're now the web developer in some sort of a corporate environment. So we're not talking about mom and pop operation or something at home. We're talking about, a big team of, a dozen people or so that are tasked to prepare like an e-commerce website for a company. Cool? Okay. So let's start with the learning objectives on page 451. Pretty straightforward stuff. Describe the skills, functions, and job roles. Utilize the stages of the system development lifecycle, SDLC. Identify other common system methodologies. Apply the system development lifecycle to web development. Describe activities such as conceptualization, blah, 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 blah. Compare the goals of the website to the results. Find the right web hosting provider. That's cool. And choose a domain name. All right. So on page 452, they finally start with, the roles of all this stuff. So let's just kind of go through this little list to make sure that we got everything covered. So the first one is the project manager. Now, the project manager is the person who's really in charge. Now, they are not necessarily technical people. To be a good project manager doesn't take, HTML coding skills or programming skills. These are people who are good at managing things. And quite literally, you could be a good project manager and build a bridge or build a website or a hospital or doesn't matter what it is you're building. The skills for being a good project manager are about, task management and organization and communication and keeping everybody in line and all the rest of that stuff. So there's a huge human part of this, not a technical part. So once again, to be a good project manager, you just need some leadership skills and some good communication skills and motivation skills. But technical? Not so much. The next one on their list is an information architect. And this is a kind of weird one. This is basically, what is it you're trying to do? This is like a person who sets the goals for things. So this could be like a corporate person. This could be like, the vice president for marketing or somebody would come in and say, well, my vision for this website is we need to do this, this, this. So they're the person who basically are telling you what information is that you're trying to provide. Because after all, websites are portals of information, and so unless you had no idea what it is you were doing, somebody was going to have to tell you what information you want to put out. The next one is a user experience designer. These people are the creative types. They're going to be over there building these user interfaces so that they're pleasant to use and easy to use and all that stuff. They may actually do prototypes and show them to a group of volunteers and say, which of these three do you find the most pleasing and the most easy to use and things of that nature. Good stuff. But these are skilled people, artisans, and doing user interface design. So once again, if you ask them about, well, say, how about this descendant selector in CSS? They're going to go, what? That's not what they do for a living. They're the pretty user image kind of a thing. The next one is a marketing rep. That should be pretty straightforward because most of the time an e-commerce website is all about providing marketing, right? I mean, it's like advertisement. So it could be something as simple as, what is it we're trying to sell here? How are we using this to make money? That would be a good thing for the marketing person to do. The copyright and editor. This is important. Somebody has to have a good command of the English language and be able to write copy, so to speak, for the contents of the web page. And this may sound kind of simple, but again, these people go to school and learn how to do this. And this is the exact same thing for print media or newspapers or television news or whatever. Somebody has to go through and read that stuff and write it and make it make sense to everyone. Pick the language and the tone and all the rest of the words very carefully. So these are important people. And once again, they don't know jack about, the H1 tag. They don't know anything about that. That's not what they do for a living. Next one is the content manager. And this is probably a very important job, but one of the thankless jobs in this is that is corralling people to provide the input. Later on, we'll talk about how the phases of the web development work. And one of the things you do is once you get finished with the web page, you have to basically continuously update it. So this content manager job never goes away, and it's constantly going back and saying, hey, I just did a review on page such and such of the web page. It looks like some of this is out of date. Could you provide me with the new information? Graphics designer. Once again, these are highly skilled artisans that know how to make, gorgeous backgrounds and fancy buttons and things of that nature. Sometimes, by the way, depending on the size of your project, the jobs that we're describing could be individual people, or they could have 2 or 3 roles together. I mean, for example, the marketing and the info guy could be the same person, and the graphics designer and the UX designer could be the same person as well. So, sometimes these things are combined, but, it's useful to talk about these discrete roles as being discrete. Whether or not they are, it's not relevant. Okay, so graphics designer is all about, ooh, pretty, making a visually pleasing website. Database administrator, almost all websites outside of, hobbyists have some sort of a database behind the scenes. And so once again, these are trained professionals, but their trained profession is in database. Database design and maintenance and upkeep, and, the database administrator, highly paid kind of people. But again, they don't know anything about, the EM tag. They're not web people. They're just they just know how to do databases. Network. The major goal of this network part, having a network person on the team, isn't actually to help design the website, oddly enough. It's really to prepare the environment where the website is. For example, let's say that you're a small business and you have like a 10 up and 10 down web connection, and you're using, about half of it. And so some corporate person comes in and says, we need to host our website locally. The network person is going to have to say, yikes, that means there's going to be one heck of a lot of more information, leaving our existing internet connection. And so I need a heck of a lot more than 10 up and 10 down. So their job is to prepare the internet connection, so to speak, to handle this kind of load. And of course, to separate traffic so that, people coming in off the web don't get into the corporate network and mess around. So it's a lot of security kind of things as well. But again, you don't ask the network person to actually help you build the website. They're tilling the soil, ready for you to plant. But there's a heck of a lot of stuff they got to do before that happens. And then last, the web developer. That's the role that I'm envisioning you being. Okay, the web developer, that's the person that actually does the HTML, CSS. Okay, cool. Because somebody's got to have to write it. And up to now, we haven't listed a single person that knows how to do any of that. Okay, cool. So a lot of people call the web developer the front-end developer. Kind of weird. The way they think about it is like a database. Let's say I have a database of all the items that I'm selling, and I've got a storefront, and I've got all the rest of this stuff. And so they view the web developer as the person who's sandwiched in between. Here's the information I have, and here's the goal I'm trying to achieve of being able to sell things online. And they're kind of in the middle of making that thing happen. A front-end developer. Now, I want to take just a second to show you some goofy stuff. So, there's a website out here called Clients from Hell. You might want to check it out one day. And it talks about, these are professional people who either do video or audio or web. And they're talking about their clients. And it's absolutely hilarious. But one of the things they talk about a lot is somebody will come up and say, hey, can you develop me a web page? And they go, sure, here's my rate. And so they'll put together like a sketch of how they want it to look. One of those wiring diagram kind of things that we've done before in previous chapters, and kind of work out the guts of the thing, and then people will be absolutely happy. And then the guy will say, so when can we go live on our new website? And the developer will say, well, as soon as you provide me with the copy, the words you want it to say. And the client will say, well, I thought you did that. It's like, no, I don't. I'm a web developer. I don't know anything at all about boot repair or whatever it is you do for a living. You're going to have to provide me with the information. I can't write the copy for you because I don't know your business. I don't have any idea what hours you're open or where your location is or, the quality of the boots. I don't know any of that stuff. You're going to have to provide that. That is the toughest job in this business, is getting people to understand that they have to provide the copy. Now, admittedly, you take it to a copywriter who could go through and kind of, change it around and make it mo better. But the client is going to have to provide the information. I mean, geez. Anyway, there's an awful lot of that on this website. People talking about, I can't believe these people expected me to go in and talk about how to repair fishnets. And I don't know anything about stuff like that or whatever it is your company does for a living. Okay. The next thing you talk about is, where do you want to do this? Do you want to do this all in-house? That is perfectly okay. If you're a high-tech company, or perhaps the vast majority of your presence is online, like Amazon, for example, they don't have brick and mortar stores, so they most likely have all of their programming staff. Each one of these roles is an honest-to-God person there in the company. But if I'm doing boot repair and I just want to have a simple website where people can make an appointment and come in and have their boots repaired, then, they only got like 5 employees total. I'm not going to be asking them to become a user interface designer, right? So most small companies contract out as practically all of this. And they can contract out 100% of these things except for the content, okay? Somebody's going to have to go and, take photos, and talk about the process of doing boot repair and how their boot repair is the best boot repair in the state. Somebody's going to have to write the copy, and it's not normally going to be these people. It's going to be somebody inside the company. So, yes, you can do it in-house. You can do it out-house. Ha, ha, ha. You can contract it out, and it's perfectly okay because this is not like, oh, God, you're contracting out. You're wasting my jobs. No, none of that stuff. It's not like people are going to be upset that you contract out this stuff because you don't want to have that expertise in your own company. Okay. On page 453, they talk about the development process. So they talk about the system development life cycle. I'm just going to pop this guy up on the screen just to show you. So this is basically what any system development life cycle is. It doesn't matter if I'm writing a web page or maybe I'm writing a calculator app or doing something else that has, but basically all system. I'm developing a banking system. It doesn't matter what it is. These same steps still apply. Starts with figuring out what it is what's the realm of possibility, the system investigation. And then you do some analysis to figure out what has to happen. And then you put the design together. Then you implement the thing. And then you do maintenance. And it's a complete cycle. Unlike traditional kind of a thing where, I want to buy a car. And so by the time you buy the car, that's it. This is one of those things where it continuously goes over. As soon as you bought the car, you're going to start looking for another car. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the way this stuff works. Is that as soon as you got a web page going, you need to be talking about the next web page. You need to be talking about making tweaks and changes, because this is not shoot once and you're done. That's not the way this kind of thing works. And once again, this is a very generic thing, and this system development life cycle is applicable to practically any system, not just web pages. Okay, this is probably a good place to start for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.